first thing you need to do is you want to add a layer of acrylic colour. So I'm going to be using a couple of colours today, and I'm going to be mixing them together, but you can just use one colour if you like. This is the colour that's going to be showing through the cracks. I'm just going to blend these together, and you want the surface to be completely covered because that way it's sealed and the crackle won't absorb into the surface. Make sure that this layer is completely dry before you add the crackle. So the next step is to apply your crackle, and so the most important thing is that you make sure you have a thick enough layer of crackle, because the thicker the layer, the bigger the cracks are going to be. The way I like to apply it is with a palette knife, but you can use any kind of spreading tool, a spatula, a butter knife, even a popsicle stick will be fine. I'm trying to make sure that the whole surface has a nice layer of crackle. It's kind of like icing a cake. You don't want to use a brush, because if you use a brush, your layer will probably not be thick enough and you might still get cracks forming. They probably won't be big enough to really be very visible. Around about 1 millimeter thick is what you should be aiming for if you want to have some nice visible cracks. So once you've applied the layer of crackle, you'll need to let it dry. And what I like to do is leave it to dry overnight, and then by the morning you can see that the cracks have formed. If it's a particularly thick layer, it'll take longer than that to see all the cracks form, and you'll need to maybe wait another day or so for it to be completely dry, and by that time it will have turned white. So this is what your surface will look like when you're ready to start sealing. You can see all the cracks have formed and almost all of it has turned white. So it'll be white when it's completely dry, but you can actually start sealing it before it's completely dry. So I'm going to seal it with some clear fluid acrylic medium, and I'm going to dilute that a little bit with water just so that it's really nice and fluid, and that way it'll penetrate into all those cracks and make a really nice strong surface. Now I'm going to use a wide soft brush here, because that way you can be sure that you don't disturb any of those little cracked plates that have formed. As you apply the acrylic medium, it goes from white back to clear again. And as it dries, it will return to white again. So I'm making sure that there's a nice layer over the entire surface. And in some places you can see that there's a little bit of lifting up. The little plates have curved upwards, and all you need to do is just push them down with your finger, and that way your surface will be smooth. So now that the acrylic fluid medium is dried, we're ready to start having fun and adding some colours. So I'm going to start with some washes and using acrylic colour with water to make some nice beautiful washes. So I'm using some quinacridone magenta here, and I'm going to add a little bit of water, and I'm just going to mix it up and flood the surface with some colour. You can see that there's some of the wash of colour is pooling in the little dishes of the cracks, and that makes some interesting variations. Now I'm going to add a little bit of yellow now to change it into a bit more of an orange colour. And you can keep adding as many layers of washes of colour as you like. And once this is dried, I'm going to start adding some dry brushed colour on the top. So I'm going to start adding some dry brushed colours now onto this surface, and I'm going to start with some nice iridescent gold. So the key to this technique is you don't want too much on your brush. I like to just do a little bit of brushing to the side there. You can see it's just catching the top surface and not going in between the cracks. So you can add as many different colours as you like, but I always think a little bit of gold looks good. So a little bit of phthalo green. You don't want too much on your brush. And you can see the more different colours that are combined together, the more interesting and complex the surface looks. I like the way that you can see the colours coming up through underneath. I think I'm just going to add A little bit of this alizarin now, and see how that's going to look with this more orange part over here. And I think that's looking pretty good. So the example I just showed you was using acrylic colours, but you can use the same technique using your favourite art materials. You can use watercolours, alcohol inks, oil paints, or you could use markers. So once you've sealed your surface and it's dry, you can use scissors or punches or a die cut machine to cut and fold your surfaces to use them in all kinds of projects. You can apply Crackle to almost any surface, whether it's rigid or flexible. You can apply it to wood, to metal, and to fabrics. Here's some examples on leather and on canvas.